Okay, we learned about the macromolecules and we learned a little bit about enzymes. We talked about how macromolecules form and get broken down, and we saw that water is very important in that process. So, I want to talk a little bit about the properties of water because the properties of water are what make it such an important molecule. So, water is polar, which just means it has an unequal distribution of charge. If you look at a water molecule, which I'll show you on the next page, there's an oxygen atom. So remember, water's H2O. So you have an oxygen atom bonded to two hydrogen atoms. What happens is the majority of the electrons are surrounding the oxygen atom, so that makes that end of the molecule a slightly negative charge, and the end that has the two hydrogen atoms has a slightly positive charge because there's less electrons around that end. The next property, this also allows it to easily break apart lots of other molecules. So it's a really good liquid to help break down solids. That's why things dissolve so easily in water. The next one's called cohesion. Cohesion is when molecules stick to each other. So if you think of a cohesive group, the molecules stick together. So water molecules stick to other water molecules. Adhesion is when water molecules stick to other things, like tape is an adhesive. So tape sticks things to other things. So water molecules can easily stick to each other, but they also easily stick to other things. The next is called capillarity. In capillarity, it's the force between a liquid and a solid that allows the liquid to rise. So if you think of a straw, in a straw, a lot of times the liquid is higher in the straw than it is in the cup because the um, process of capillarity allows its adhesion and cohesion working together, and it sort of pulls the liquid up. The next one, surface tension. Again, adhesion and cohesion work together to form this thin film on a surface of water. That's why water striders can run across the surface of water. And then the last one's temperature moderation. Water can absorb large amounts of heat with very little change in temperature. And also, it takes a lot more energy for the temperature to decrease as well. So, when you go to the beach in the summertime in June, even though it might be 90 degrees outside, the water is still very, very cold. It's because it takes a lot longer for the water to heat up because it takes a lot more energy to heat that water up. So that's why in the summertime at the beach, the water's so much nicer in July and August because it's had all that time to absorb the sun's energy and increase in temperature. So here's what that sort of looks like, each of these things. So here's that polarity image. So here's your oxygen atom and your two hydrogen atoms. Most of the electrons are going to be surrounding the oxygen. And then these are the hydrogen atoms. They have that partial positive charge. This is cohesion, the water molecules all sticking together here on this web. And then the actual sticking to the web is another example of adhesion because the water molecules stick to each other, but they also stick to the spider's web. This one's showing again adhesion and cohesion because all the water molecules are sticking together, but they're also sticking to the blade of grass. This is your capillarity. See if here's the surface, and above that surface, you see the straw or the tube, it rises. This is another element. You don't have that same thing. This is surface tension. Again, the adhesion and cohesion properties allow it to stick together and float this paperclip on the surface of water. And then the last one is um, temperature moderation. Here's a fish. That's why there's able to be ice fishing because only the surface of the water freezes, but below the surface stays the same temperature. All right, those are the properties of water. We're going to be exploring those a little bit more later. Have a great night.